So just to be respectful of everybody's time today, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm sure that there will be more folks trickling in throughout the next couple minutes, but we'll get started here with just a brief introduction. My name is Kristen Hosman, and I'm going to be the moderator for today's session. I am the owner and also senior consultant over here at Mount Evans Consulting, which is a company that I created about 3 years ago now. I spun out on my own and love it, love working for myself. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on because today's session is on goal setting, which is why everyone's here, is just to kind of get a glimpse into setting up goals and also how do you achieve your goals. So we'll let everyone on the panel here, Shannon and Mary, go ahead and introduce themselves and give a little bit of an update because all three of our worlds have changed in the last 7 months since we started this. So we'll let everyone on the panel speak now. Shannon, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'm Shannon Mullins. I am a Microsoft MVP. I'm also the Chief Revenue Officer for our Dela systems out of Texas, even though I am based in Nashville. My major changes is I have changed companies, changed roles, changed my relationship status, changed soon to be my house. So I don't know what hasn't changed. My kids stay the same. So my kids have stayed the same over the last 2 years. A lot of major changes for me over the last year, which have been, changes for the good. I feel like this session is a really good session for me personally because a lot of all the changes I've made in the last year started with goal setting, which I was honest, I'll be super honest with everybody in the group today. I was horrible at until a friend sat down with me in January, and I'll tell you guys a little bit about that story. But yeah, since we started this, this has been an active group. We've been invited to speak for Microsoft. We've been invited to speak at other groups. I've had lots of women reach out to me. I'm mentoring a couple right now to become MVPs. Mary and Kristen and I have gotten closer, which has been exciting and kind of built that friendship and relationship there. And I think along the way, within the last 6 to 9 months, we've learned a lot about ourselves and have personally grown. I mean, I've seen so much growth, and I think a lot of that comes out of community and encouragement, which is one of the main reasons we started this group, is just to kind of keep ourselves in line and on track, and then encourage each other. So yeah, a lot of major changes in the last year.
Yes, those are all such exciting changes, Shannon. I'm really excited for all of it for you and for you as well, Kristen, and for myself too, right? I think there's always so many good things that can come out of COVID, right? I mean, I think people look at that as kind of like a dark experience, but like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and it can kind of be a really great experience. So for me, since we've started, I now have a new title as well at Bam Bam Cloud. I'm now head of our partner engagement. So helping and just really doing what I've been doing, but kind of now have an official title, I guess, to go along with it, right? So I help build our partner channel and find business opportunities. And I'm building my team as well underneath me. So that's really exciting as well. And I am super excited about this goal session too, because, Kristen and I were just talking right before we started here, and we're talking about birthdays coming up, and I always get so like nostalgic whenever my birthday comes around, and I like reflect on like the last year, and I'm like, I am just overwhelmed with the amount of blessings that I continue to see, and I think goals that like I've accomplished, and like little ones and big ones, and it's like here I am, or I'm starting to feel that way. So excited to kind of share that and just spend some time talking about that today.
All right. Well, thank you, ladies, for introducing yourselves. And I do want to welcome everyone attending to go into the chat. Give us an introduction of yourself, too, and where you're from, and if you want to put your Twitter handle out there or something like that. But between Shannon and Mary and I, we'll be putting some questions out in the chat as we think of some. So the first question here I have for everybody is, what does goal setting mean to you? So just go ahead and type that into the chat, and we'll just have this open conversation. And then at the end here, if you have questions, put them in here. But we can take everybody off mute at the end and have a conversation that way as well. So let's get started here. So why are we here today? Each one of us kind of talked a little bit about that in our introduction. But we're here today to talk about goals and setting goals and how do we achieve goals. We're going to be talking very candidly about our experiences with goals that we've set for ourselves and how we've achieved them. And let's be real, sometimes you don't achieve them at all, and that's okay too. You have to kind of understand that process as well and how that feels to actually not be able to achieve something. So that's why we're here today. Shannon, I'm not sure if you have anything more to add on this, because this was an idea that you actually came up with for this session. So go ahead.
Yeah, I think I alluded it a little bit in my intro, but I have a very good, which will probably become a lifetime friend and mentor now to me, who back in January of this year, I was really struggling. I was not happy with my job. I was not happy with my marriage. I was not happy with my work-life balance. Like everything just seemed, I don't know if you've ever felt tilted in a way. And I'm the kind of person who just gives and gives and gives. Like I don't say no. If someone asks me, hey, you want to do this event? Yes, I'll do it. Hey, you want to do this? Yeah, I'll do it. I'll make it happen. But the one thing I've never done in my whole life is align that to goals. And why am I doing this? Like, does this fit some kind of theme in my life that I'm trying to work towards? Or is this something that's going to help me as a person onto a path to betterment? Ever since I was a kid, I just always did. And I never thought. And so this friend kind of sat down and said, why are you doing these things? Like, what is your purpose? What is your purpose in life? What are you working towards? What do you want to do? And I said, well, I honestly don't know. At this point, I don't know what I want. I know I'm not happy, but I don't know what I want. And so that friend really encouraged me to take time out, one, to myself, to sit down and really reflect before I even set goals, but reflect on what makes me happy. What do I want to do? What are my dreams? What are the things I want to accomplish professionally and personally? And then sit down and write my goals out and to be very purposeful in my goals. Like, this is my 5-year goal plan. This is my 10-year goal plan. This is my 15-year goal plan. And one piece of great advice that he gave me that I never really thought about was, you may not achieve all these goals, like Kristen said, but these are things that as you're going through your life and you're saying, I'm going to make this job change, or I'm going to try to become an MVP, or I'm going to try to do this. Well, does that align to my goals of what I desire to do in my life? And if it doesn't, is that something I even want to pursue? And it's actually been super, super helpful in one, balancing my time and figuring out how I'm going to spend my time in my day, because I was really bad at doing that. And two, just realigning like every month now that I have set my goals. And I did go out to Denver, got snowed in. So that's a fun story, but got snowed in Denver in the bizarre weather, but wrote almost a novel of goals. I mean, it just thought after thought just came pouring out. And it was crazy how much I had in my brain that I wanted to do. And within a month, I was already starting to check off that list, one including, quitting my job and separating from my current husband and all these things that were, just was stuff that I just didn't do because I'm just a doer, that I was like, is this meeting my goals? It's not. Okay, let's move on. And so it's been so much easier to prioritize my life. And so now when I'm mentoring people that want to be an MVP, I'm like, why do you want to do this? How does this fit into your goals? Because it's a huge jump. It's a huge jump to dedicate time that you may not have to something. And if you're not passionate about it, you're just probably going to be stressed about it, right? So that was really the point of today's session. I feel like goals have really kind of helped change my life over the last year. And Mary and Kristen can attest to this, that I'm a much happier person this week, a little stressed out because I have a short week from vacation. But in general, I felt more calm, more balanced, more in control of my life. So I felt like maybe this would be helpful, especially for people who are aspiring to become an MVP. How do you set that balance and how do you set those goals so that you can achieve them, right? And so that's really the whole point of this session.
Right. Well, thanks, Shannon, for sharing. And Mary, I want you to chime in a little bit here because, while we were prepping for this session, we were talking about goal setting. And goal setting is not just for career, right? I mean, it's for personal stuff too. I mean, you may have some family and close friends out there that their goal is to lose weight, or their goal is to be healthier, right? Those are definitely goals as well. But Mary, can you talk a little bit about your journey and why you set goals?
Yeah, so for me, man, why do I set goals? That was an unexpected question that you just popped in there. Honestly, I think when I was younger, I set goals because I needed hope. I needed something to strive for. I needed something to be a beacon in the light when everything else around me seemed so incredibly dark. Because I could escape to that. I could give everything I have into that goal. And for me, that's, why I make goals for myself, is for that, or for, it's like, I always want the best, or I always want something better. Like when I was little, I wanted to be the president of the United States, right? I think Camilla, she's probably going to beat me to the first woman. But maybe I'll be second. I don't know. But what I mean? Those are the type of like goals and aspirations, right? Like go big or go home. And I saw this poster in high school that I always loved too. And it was like something to the extent of like, reach for the moon, because even if you don't make it, you'll land on the stars. And so I think that's another reason why I set goals. But I think goal setting is really great, but one thing that's really, really important that I have found in my life is you need to know why and who are you making these goals for, right? Because if your goal is to be a doctor because that's going to make your family really happy and you just want to please them, what do you get out of that, right? Like, you're going to make them happy, but it's your life, and you're never truly going to be happy. You're always going to be missing something. You can be the best doctor in the entire world, but if like your drive and purpose and the reason that you're doing that is for someone else, then that's not the goal that you need to have, right? Like, you need to have goals that satisfy you and that you value. So I just think that that's something that's really important to consider when making those goals. I make my goals because they are things that I want to do. When I make my goals for reasons that aren't for me and reasons that I just want to compete with other people, then I don't feel like satisfied. I gave this presentation. I talked about this girl. I was really jealous of her because I thought that she was really pretty and she made a lot of money. And I was like a struggling single mom at that point. And I just thought that she was perfect. And I was so jealous of her. And like, this guy I liked her. And so all of that drama, right, that goes into this. And I just thought, man, if I could be like her, then maybe he would like me. Then maybe I would be something. I would feel better about myself. So I get into the tech world. I'm making tons of money. Spoiler alert, got the guy. And, I'm crying every night in a hotel room. Because it wasn't about the money. It wasn't about the guy. And it wasn't about anything to that extent. I wasn't like, I was trying to do all these things because I wanted to feel like I was better than other people. But when I dug down and was like, well, what can I do for other people? That's what makes me happy. Then it all changed. So anyways, I know that's a little bit like long-winded and a lot to share, but I just think it's the importance of like why I set goals, but like why you need to make sure that those goals are for you.
Right. Well, thanks for sharing that. I think as you were talking, I was thinking about a conversation that I had with a really good friend of mine just last week. Really good friend, single mom, and she came over and we had this really honest conversation about how she felt stuck. Like, she felt like she wasn't going to go anywhere in her career. She's a single mom. She's going to live in her parents', basement the rest of her life. And she was coming to the terms with that. That's her reality, right? so we sat down and we were talking, and I was like, okay, well, like, what do you want to do? Like, if you're not happy, like, what do you want to do, you know? And she's like, well, I want a career change. And I'm like, okay, well, that's good. Like, how do you make that happen? And for her, she was just so down and just negative and almost depressed about her life where it was today that she couldn't even think about how she needed to go about going back to school, you know, finding something different to do. So me being me, you know, I helped her get in touch with a counselor that could help her get in touch with someone who could, you know, help her do the FAFSA form. She called me just last night actually and said, I'm going to go to school. I filled out the FAFSA and I'm going to go to school in the fall, and I'm going to stay where I'm at work-wise, even though I'm not happy. I'm going to stay here for a year, and I'm going to go get this certificate, and then I'm going to switch jobs. And I'm like, great. So that's like the next year, you know, so what's next? You know, like, you also were bringing up living at home and you know, caring for your son, you know, being a single mom. And she's like, you know, I thought about that too. Like, if I can get a new job, then I can make more money and I can move out. And her son happens to be dyslexic. And she's like, then I can maybe put him in like a private school or get him a tutor or, you know, do all this stuff. And it was a really good conversation I had with her last night, because her outlook on life was totally different last night than it was a week ago. She was happy. She knew what like her future looked like. She had kind of this clear vision of what she needed to do to get to where she wanted to be. And I think that's really important when we're talking about goal setting, because part of it is, you know, you may know these people. They could be coworkers, they could be family, they could be really good friends of yours, and they may just be almost not content. I'm not going to say content, because content people are happy, but they just may be down. And it doesn't help COVID and being, you know, locked down for a year. But they just may never have really thought about goals and what's next and how to achieve them. So having these conversations with people like this, you know, you never know, it may spark something in them, and they may, you know, I always say light a fire, but, you know, it might light something under them to actually get them motivated to take that next step, right? So I personally, I think goal setting is huge, and I do it myself. And it's gotten me somewhat where I am today, right? You know, you set these goals career-wise or personal-wise, and you just keep working. You know, I think Shannon and Mary, we're all in the same boat here. We're never going to be fully content. We always want to learn more and figure out what else can we do to mentor others, help others, you know, different things like that. So that's just kind of in our DNA at this point. But that's a little long-winded, and I'm sorry about that. But we'll go on to the next question. How about that? The next question here is, what types of goals are important, right? So we've talked a little bit about this, but we'll go in more depth. So Mary, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I think that like you do have to have a mixed set of types of goals, right? And I think it's always important, honestly, one of those to be some type of financial goal. And I know that money isn't everything, and maybe that's a bad place to start, but so my husband's a banker and he works for First Citizens, and their goal, like their slogans like money isn't everything, but what you do with it sure does matter, is something to that extent, right? Like where it can take you and what you can do with it from there. So I think that having some type of financial goal, whatever that may be, you know, kind of for you, whether it be reducing debt or, you know, building equity, but something, or even sometimes if it's like, hey, let me get all my bills paid on time this month. I mean, I've definitely been there where I'm like, let's not get the electricity turned off. Like that's a goal, and that's a good one to have. So I think that, and then just kind of also like personal happiness goals, because I think as women, there's so much that it's expected of us in a day. It's not just Like, I don't just leave the house and go to work and then come back and pick up now my home life, right? Like, I'm at home and I'm like working, I'm a mom, I'm like a dog sitter, I'm a house cleaner, I'm, you know, doing all these different things, and it's exhausting. And then I forget about myself. And then I get really grumpy. And, you know, so I think it's important that you have to make time for you to recharge, because how else do you keep going unless you make like these personal goals to make sure that you're happy too?
Yeah, right. Sorry, I was just pausing and I was listening, Mary, but and you're absolutely right. And I just want to bring attention to Lindsay. Lindsay just wrote in the chat, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Lindsay, but like this is amazing. So Lindsay was a teacher for 16 years and quit her job. And now she's in a coding boot camp with the goal to become a junior developer. How scary was that? Lindsay, if you could just come off mute, I'm going to put you on the spot, but could you just talk about a little bit on why you quit your job? Like what pushed you to change career paths?
Sure. You know, I love teaching and I've taught for a long time and I enjoyed the relationships and whatnot, but just especially towards the last couple of years, just felt a little bogged down and a little stifled. You know, all of the pressure on the kids and the testing and whatnot just sort of took the joy out of it. So, but I was comfortable there. Like I knew what I was doing and I enjoyed like my coworkers and whatnot. So I stayed probably longer than I wanted to, but I taught virtually last year, which was very challenging, but just interacting with the technology and whatnot and seeing all that was out there and all the resources and whatnot just really kind of sparked a fire in me. And I just decided it's kind of like now or never, like life is short. Well, the last year has taught us that too. So I just decided it's now or never. It's never too late. And so it was very scary and sad too, you know, bittersweet, but I'm very excited about the future and nervous, but hopeful.
There is a gentleman, his name is Brian Dane, and he is out of California, and right prior to COVID, he quit his job as a teacher. He wasn't in it for 16 years, but he quit his job as a teacher and started making apps and Power Apps and working with the Power Platform, and now works for, you know, Microsoft, I think, and is like a big, you know, leader. And that's all happened within a couple of like years, but like that transition for him happened like within a couple of months. So, you know, some of those stories, your story reminds me, you know, so much of that. So I'm trying to find his name. When I stop talking here, I'll pull it up on Twitter and put it in the chat. And that, you know what I mean? Like I just think from that like teacher to tech background, and then also I'm trying to think of this other lady she's out of Tacoma, Washington, and she's really specialized in tech and teaching. But I think, so my whole point of it is that one of the ways that you can be really successful when transitioning into tech is being a subject matter expert in your previous industry and splashing tech into that, because anyone, like, you know, you can be in tech for a long time and it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to help solve these, you know what I mean, whether it be as a classroom or administrative or any type of these issues, you know what I mean? Like you're the best type of person to help make that transition. And so when you can kind of build your network of people that are teacher to tech, right? They can say, hey, have you thought of this? Or I'm working on this project, and kind of like it bring you alongside and kind of like expedite, you know, that journey. So yeah, super exciting. Sorry, I just thought I'd throw that in there.
No, I love that.
Well, thank you, Lindsay, for letting me spotlight you there for a moment. But I think you are absolutely amazing, and you know, it's so cool to hear people's stories on how they got into tech. You know, everybody's story is different and very interesting. But thank you for that. So we're going to just kind of change a little bit, segue here. The next question here. is how to get started reaching your goals. So, Lindsay decided she was just going to quit her job of 16 years. Shannon talked a little bit about, taking a vacation and journaling. But let's talk a little bit about, how do you get started? How do you actually decide what goals you want? How do you track them? Different things like that. So Shannon, I'll let you start this one off.
Yeah, so I'm probably the worst person to ask because all of my goals are in a notebook. And I've kept that same notebook. It's actually kind of falling apart, but I have been good about keeping the notebook actually in my desk. And so I'll pull it out like once a month and just look at it and start to check off the stuff and then be like, oh shoot, I haven't done that yet. I need to do that. So on my list are a number of Microsoft certifications, which unfortunately I just don't have a lot of free hours in my days right yet, and I'm working on hiring some more team members. But I've been taking that out and being like, oh yes, I need to do that. I need to do that. I need to do that. And then my goal, honestly, is to every year continue a pattern of going away for a few days. Maybe it's not to snowed in Colorado, but somewhere where I'm by myself again, because I felt like that was really, really helpful to do a self-reflection before I did goal setting. And so I think I'll continue that path. But whatever way, for me, I'm still a handwriter of notes. In fact, on my desk, you can't see it, but I have like a million little sticky notes everywhere. And typically, if it's not written down somewhere, it's probably not going to happen. So it's either an Outlook, it's on a sticky note, or it's not going to happen. So I think the best way is if you're a visual person, if you're an electronic person, whatever the case may be, maybe you like Siri to give you messages to set yourself reminders once you do set those goals, because it's easy to like set them and then just forget them because we all get busy. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay. Mary, anything on your end?
I think there has to be some realisticness in setting those goals. So I kind of like to have a goal, kind of like project planning, right? Like I have a go live date, or like I have my goal, and then I kind of work backwards, right? Like what are like the mini milestone steps that I have to take to make sure I'm progressing along in those goals so that it's like just realistic. It's like if I want to be the president, then I'm going to go ahead and look at my goals and see I'm not really being realistic or on track, saying I'm not, anywhere geared for that right now, right? Like I would have to think about, I don't know, I don't have to be in politics anymore, but whatever, right? So I think that that's really important when you're doing those goals, and you kind of have to think about, is this long term? Like what is the worst case, scenario? Like think about like your best days and your worst days of what that's going to be like. So for your friend, right? Like when she's going back to school, like sometimes I think you just need to know that there's going to be bad and lows in your goal setting journey, or like in that, and be prepared for that up front. Because that way, whenever it happens, you don't feel like you've derailed yourself. So I don't know. I just think that that's an important part of goal setting, is kind of the planning aspect of it, just to get you going. Sorry, I had to reread the question to make sure I was like on the right scope. But yeah, that's final answer.
No worries. And, we talked a little bit previously about, previous to this call, so kind of planning for this, we talked about accountability. We talked about, sharing your goals with people. If you put your blogs or put your goals out there, in a blog and blog about them, you're holding yourself accountable to blogging more. But your viewers they're holding you accountable too, right? So, it could be friends, it could be family, it could be, your spouse, different things like that. But making your goals known is, for me, like the biggest thing that helps keep me accountable for it, because then people are asking me, how are things going? Where are you at? That type of stuff. And the other thing I found is that surrounding myself and having friends like-minded is another huge thing, because, you know, they're goal setting too. So it's not that I'm hanging out with people or have people in my circle that are always kind of Debbie Downers. I want to, you know, they're like-minded people, and we push each other to hit those goals. I know Shannon, for example, you know, venturing out, we had conversations about it, and you know, she asked for advice and I gave her advice, and she took that, right? She didn't just walk away and be like, oh, Kristen doesn't know what she's talking about, I'm not going to listen to her. I think you need to find people who are going to be your cheerleader and help you and mentor you, and are like-minded, so that you all are working towards that same goal at the end of the day. Even though your goals are different, they're very similar in alignment, right?
Yeah, and I think like be in a circle of people who will be honest with you too, right? There's one thing having a cheerleader who's always like, yeah, that's a great idea. You're quitting your job, being a teacher, and you're going to go do this tech thing. Cool, sounds great. Or there's those friends who are like, are you sure that you're going to leave your stable teacher job and go learn something new? And how do you feel about it? And, you know, do you think this is the best decision? Because I think like some of my friends, they are so, you know, concerned about me, and they're like, hey, are you sure? Are you okay? Is everything good? And during those transitions, that circle kind of surrounded me, was like, hey, we're excited for you. You know, are you good? Is everything great? So I feel like surround yourself with those women, you know, find yourself men. I mean, I love men, and we have a lot of men join this group, but you don't get that same kind of comfort level. You know, that's why moms are moms and moms are women. But there's that comfort level with having your female friends who are just supportive. And I think that's the cool thing about this community and this group is I've been in a lot of workplaces where women are just so catty and competitive with each other, and, you know, trying to climb over each other to get to somewhere. Don't surround yourself with people like that. Surround yourself with people that are encouraging, who are not trying to get in your lane. They're in their own lane, and you guys are both working towards the goal. I'll just give you a good example. Kristen, you know, she's going back into consulting and working for her own firm, and we're actually kind of aligning together to where we can kind of co-work on some projects. But I'm 100% excited for Kristen. She's excited for me, and I don't even see it as a competitive thing, because I'm excited for her, and I encourage her to do her own thing. So I just encourage, after being in the corporate world for so long and working around so many, and I'm sure many of you worked in those situations where women are just trying to push you down to make themselves, you know, rise up to the top. Don't surround yourself with those kind of people, because I feel like it's just counteractive towards you reaching your goals.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I feel like we're lucky today, Shannon, because we have a smaller group and we have some time left. So, you know, I want to kind of pose the question to everyone. That the chat's blowing up, which is awesome. But if we could, Michelle, do you feel okay coming off mute? And I love your story. I would like you to kind of tell us more about it, because unfortunately, you know, we're recording this, but the chat doesn't get recorded. So those folks watching this back aren't going to be able to know your story. And I think it's an awesome story. Could you share that with us?
Yeah, sure. I'll give the short version of it because it's a kind of long story, but basically my mom was married to a not so nice guy, and 10 years later decided, you know what, it's better to be homeless than to be unhappy in the situation. So we moved from Massachusetts to California pretty quickly, almost into Canada. Way too cold for us, so California was the choice. And you know, we were homeless for a little bit, you know, scraping around like Pico Union Boulevard, lived in Compton for a bit, little like, you know, women's shelters, different things like that. But it really opened my eyes to there's a lot of difficult situations that we can be in and we can put ourselves in, or we just end up, and it's not because anybody's like wrong or deserves it. It's all good and bad luck, and everything just happens for a reason. really set a clear goal in my mind that I, wanted to have financial stability for my future kids, and different things like that. So setting myself up to find my passion and find the thing that works for me. And luckily I got put into a STEM program at the school in LA. So whizzed through that and decided, hey, I'm good at this and it's fun, it's challenging, and here we are today. Now I'm in Power Platform and I specialize in Canvas apps, so lots of fun.
Very cool. Mary also is very good in the Power Platform. So when I heard those words come out of your voice, I looked at her and I saw a little smile because the Power Platform is definitely her baby too, right?
I picked her on LinkedIn and saw that. Yeah. So I would love to connect. Let's do some projects. Let's do stuff together, girl. I won't steal the thunder or anything like that. Not, my story is not like yours, but anyways, coming from an interesting background and finding tech is the way, and then being like, man, this is where I'm supposed to be, right? Like that's my story too. So it's one of the reasons why I love this group, right? Like we're always like making like new connections and sharing different things and meeting new people and seeing how we can all help others rise and grow. So I think that's really awesome.
Right. So
I know, Mary, I was just gonna throw this out there. I know Mary and I, and when I get a lot of extra free time in my day, which I don't know when that'll ever happen, but I know we both have a passion for helping single women coming out of situations. I honestly, I think my whole personal journey this year has really put me in a perspective of like, I was really thankful to have a job and to be able to support myself on my own moving out of a relationship, but I know so many women don't. So I have a huge passion to help women who are coming from, being a stay-at-home mom or being in a situation where they didn't make much money in the relationship and are moving on, whether that's widowed or separated or whatever their situation is. But, if you think about it, the amount of women who go through a relationship change and then come out of it with nothing is pretty dramatic compared to the vice versa of the situation. So we have a really big passion for that. So it's just so exciting to see women who are like, moving up and furthering themselves so that they can be, not necessarily independent, because, I'm not totally against being in a relationship, but having that dependence to where you gain that confidence in your own and if something were to happen to you, you could survive. I think that's so important in today's society.
Right. And I feel like, kind of piggybacking off of that, I feel like as you start setting goals and you start meeting those goals, in return, you become more confident in yourself. And that's huge, right? Because then you can just start, it seems just like everything just kind of starts falling into place for you. But I do have a question here for Lindsay and Kirsten. I hope I'm saying that right, because my name is Kristen, so it's always hard for me to get that I before the R. But
yeah, that's right.
Okay. You both quit your job, and I guess we've heard from Michelle and Mary. You both said goal setting around being financially stable. My question to you girls, you ladies, is that did you decide to just quit your job and pursue another career? Was part of that financial, or was there another motivating factor behind it? So that's my question.
Go ahead, Kristen. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I actually sorry I don't have my camera on. I have horrible lighting in my room, but I quit my job like right before COVID started, and so mine wasn't really financial so much as like I was tired of where I was working. They weren't treating me very well. And then since COVID started, I couldn't really find a new job. And so I kind of just I was forced to take a lot of that time off. And I definitely reevaluated my financial situation, but it really kind of helped me realize that I wanted to have like a career versus just a job. And so eventually it led me to where I'm at now, studying to be like a
data analyst. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it is kind of financial, but it's also because I want to do something like rewarding and not just working at dead end jobs and where I don't feel appreciated or like I'm doing anything substantial. So I decided to like find a career, I guess.
Very cool.
And on my end, I think what, I mean, obviously as a teacher, finances have been a struggle. So that was obviously playing a factor in the decision, but I think more so it was just the idea of having possibilities and like room to grow and expand. I mean, as a teacher, you can learn and create new lessons and try to do the same things new ways, but you'll just, I don't know, it just felt like I was stuck in one place. And I like the idea of being able to progress to different levels and learn new things in different departments and areas and whatnot. It just seems like the world is my oyster here, where before I just felt a little stuck.
Mhm. Okay. I think we've all felt that way, where we felt stuck and we didn't really know how to move forward, right? That's the hardest part, is actually making that change. One of the things that helped me is, you know, you're always going to your best friend, right? You're always going to your best friend for advice. And what helped me was just kind of sitting back and thinking, okay, well, my best friend's going to come to me for advice, and I'm hoping that the advice is good advice and that they actually take it in and listen to it, right? And whenever things get hard, or whenever I have like bridges to cross, or, you know, I come up to a wall, I sit down and I think to myself, you know, what would I tell Shannon? What if Shannon called me right now in this same situation? Like, what would I tell her? And I had to like listen to that. Like, what would I tell her? And then I had to act on it, right? Because the acting's the hardest thing to do. So just trying to get over that hump is very, very hard. And I think it's important to acknowledge it. And I think it's important to kind of share that story, because that's going to help somebody else along the way. So thank you, ladies, for sharing that. We do have 15 minutes left scheduled. I feel like we went through this one really, really fast, but we do have a small group. So I would like you guys, if you have questions, if you have goals, if you have anything that you want to talk about, go ahead and come off mute, and we would love to hear from you. Brenda, I see you're raising your hand.
And I totally, so I did want to throw this out to the group as a whole, because one of the things I've always struggled with in my career is that the path I am supposed to take is not necessarily the one that fits for me. And it's been a struggle pretty much my entire career. And part of it is I went and started my own consulting business and sort of went out of corporate America a little bit and wound up consulting for it, because, you know, I was a senior manager and they wanted me to be a director, and I looked at what they wanted me to do and said, yeah, not really feeling it. And it's been interesting. And part of me feels like part of the challenge is because we are female and we have so many other things we juggle, that sometimes we look at what we're asked to do in the workplace and say, you know, that's not everything. It's important to me. My career is important and I love the work that I do, but I have a child to raise and a family that I'm taking care of, and other, you know, like I do a lot of volunteer work. So I kind of wanted to throw out to the team, like, when it comes to goal setting and you have goals that aren't the standard or that deviate a little bit from what's expected of you, do you have advice for folks like that? You know, because I do think we all need to be our authentic, unique self. And how do you balance that with what you're being asked to do?
Yeah, I can attest to this, Brenda. So I was in a very similar situation within the last 3 months when I quit my former job and was on the path to promotion, I'll say, in a corporate environment where, yes, the money would have been a little bit better, but the expectations that they had for that group would dramatically change, you know. And again, being a doer, I could see myself just totally throwing my whole life away, trying to commit myself to a title, right? And so I think that's really important to decipher career ladders versus I don't know how to say it, but I think you need to personally evaluate, does this company align with what I want in my career goals, and if it doesn't, if you find yourself in a situation where you got a good offer, you get into the company and then you realize like, this is as far as I want to go. I don't want to climb any farther here. I think at that point, my advice is to find something that does make you happy, to align yourself with the company. If that's your own company, that's awesome, and I'm in that situation now. And honestly, I got to a point in my career where I'm like, I'm 40 and I can't work for anyone else. It just, I did it too much in my 20s. We could have a whole session on bad bosses, but I've had a million of them. And it was just to the point where I was like, if I have another bad boss, I think I'm going to mentally snap. And that's where it got for me. So I think it's important to say, like, because a lot of people get into companies and be like, okay, well, I want to make partner, I want to be a director, I want to do this, but does that align with your goals? And that's really important. And also to evaluate the position as a whole and look at the company culture and say, okay, well, look around at that level in that company and say, are these people, do they seem happy? Are they, excited to come to work? Are they good leaders? Do they seem comfortable? And, in my situation I was in, I didn't see that from the leadership. I saw very stressed out people who were, biting and chewing people's heads off, who were working insane hours, who were, miserable, and to me, I was like, that's not worth my mental health. And I think it's very important to consider when you're looking at your goals, consider your mental health, because like you said, Brenda, we're moms, we're CEOs of our household, we're wives, we're, so many other things that I feel like that expectation, I know some men that do that and fantastic for them, but the cultural expectation is not on the male figure usually. And that expectation is just automatically assumed on us by our children, by our spouses, by our parents. Yes. And no one sees that part of your life, right? And I'm a very private person at work. I don't normally show that side. And I was really like that in my 20s and 30s. Like I had a baby and I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want to know I had to leave for daycare or anything because I didn't want anyone thinking different on me as a woman. Now I'm like, you know what? I have kids. Sorry, I can't take this call at 8:30 in the morning. And I got to that point in my old company where they're like, we need you on this call at 7:30 in the morning with the CFO. And I'm like, I love CFOs. I love new companies. But guess what? My kids have to be on the bus. We need to move the call. Set expectations, be realistic. And I think the more honest you are with your employer and with yourself, the easier it is to start saying no and really to truly kind of pursue that happiness. Because like I said, I was never the no person and it was a miserable place to be in. And then when I finally realized, nope, that doesn't align to me, that's not what I want, my life became so much easier. And I feel like I'm one of those movie characters that like goes off the edge. That's how I feel. I haven't gone that crazy, trust me. But, in my mind, being a yes person all the time, saying no felt kind of risky. But then I was like, oh, I feel happier. Cool. Okay, this is exciting. Now what's my next no? So in your situation, if you don't feel like that's your path, if you're excited about doing your own thing, I say pursue it, and pros and cons, and Kristen knows this, of starting up on your own or being like I did, joining other partners. There's so much risk and unknowns. And it was probably the most scary moment I've had joining a job. I'll be honest with you. I was just very, very nervous about it. But I sleep better at night and I have that peace of mind. And so I think that's.
And I would agree with that. And I think that's where I kind of stepped away. And the irony is I'm a consultant in corporate America. I stepped out of the company I was in and then wound up really still being in the large enterprise level environments because I love that environment, but I also took on the entrepreneurial, oh my God, I got to make money, I have to hire people, and I'm doing the whole small business aspect of it too, which is an interesting thing. But I almost, and it's funny because I'm still in corporate America, like in many ways I left as an employee but returned as a consultant. I'm also trying to get a lot of the teams that I build to be their authentic self in their roles because and that's the luxury of project management, right? I'm there for a time and then gone. So I can push it a little bit and ask people to really own whoever they are in those roles. And that goes for the leadership that I'm working with as well. I mean, in my last role with the COO, I'm like, listen, you're in charge. If you don't like how it's working, you're the one who's got to fix it, and had some really very honest conversations. But I think my point being, and I don't want to take up everybody's time, but I think my point being is sometimes it's a big challenge to find yourself, because the roles aren't always well defined for who we need to be as a whole. And it worked out for me to leave, but I feel for everyone who stays, right?
Yeah. And I agree with you. It's corporate America is not built for individualism, which is why I don't survive in that environment. I find myself, when I went back, I was like, within 2 weeks, I was like, this isn't me. And I was very honest with the people above me. I'm sorry, this culture is not me. This is not what I feel. This is not how I relate, because I'm a very real person. But I think that's a really good point, Brenda, is just staying really real with yourself and encouraging other people to be real, even in a corporate environment, having a little bit of fun. I've always, even in those environments, try to encourage my team to share their personal life. Don't be afraid to tell me you got to go pick up your kid, or you don't feel well today, or something's going on. Like, be real. And I think if you start being real, other people around you be real, and it just kind of changes the culture.
Right. I had a friend tell me once, people don't leave jobs, they leave bosses, right? That's what you hear all the time, right? And I had a good friend tell me one time, she said, if you're leaving a company because of a bad boss, before you leave, when you're resigning, tell them, be honest with them. Like, and it's going to feel so weird, and it might be the first time you've ever really spoken up for yourself. But just doing that before you leave is going to give you a peace of mind and so much more confidence when you go into the next position, for you to speak up and be able to just hold yourself up a little bit higher, and feel like, I have a voice, and I can tell people, just like Shannon did. I can go to my boss and say, this is not the culture, or this is not a good fit. I'm not learning here. But being honest and being able to actually tell someone that, when the nerves, I mean, trust me, I've done it. Like, you want to throw up. The nerves are that bad because you feel like, I've never been this outspoken before, but that can be a goal too, is just being more open and honest with people, and taking that step and starting to stand up for yourself, or standing up for, others in your organization that you see, are not given opportunities that they should be. That's one way to just blossom, I guess, is what I'll say on that one. Mary, I know you have some stories on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to do it, right? I mean, you just have to kind of open yourself up to the possibilities of what are, and go for it. Whenever you're setting your goals and making your priorities. Like, I think it's kind of about like having a brand. So for me, that's how I kind of decide my time. I think of like my brand, or like my mission, right? Like, my personal mission statement and values are around empowering people to be their best version of themselves, right? So if I'm trying to make decisions on like my goals or my time priorities, does it fit into that? If it fits into that, then it's easy to stand by, because sometimes you have to make tough decisions, right? And kind of go against those different things. And so it's like, if it goes towards something that I've already decided is my outstanding purpose and guiding rock, then that's the principle that I go by, right? And sometimes maybe those decisions are wrong, but at the end of the day, I feel a lot of conviction, and the fact of I stood by my principle. I stood by what I said I want my brand to be, right? And I think that brands are goals, or it's just like, what do you stand for, right? So it's not just like, oh, my brand, right? But it's like what do I stand for? Like, what do my friends think of me? What are my peers in the industry? Like, what do they think of me? What do I want them to think of me, right? Like, am I consistent in that? So.
Very nice. All right. Another thing here, I do have our contact information up here. We're always willing to have a call. You know, if you have a goal or you have a question or you don't know how to approach a situation, reach out to us. I think just having someone that you can call and kind of talk things through is really important. And sometimes they'll kind of push you forward a little bit after that conversation, and it's gonna, you know, make you feel a lot better and make you feel like, you know, you're even closer to hitting whatever goal that might be. Just to kind of wrap up here, I do want to just ask everybody, and we'll start with the panel, but can you share one goal that you are currently working towards? Can you just share one goal? Okay, Shannon, you first.
I'm gonna mute myself. I think my biggest goal right now is I've achieved a lot of my goals this year, which is exciting. But I think my biggest next one is getting some certifications in some of the Microsoft pieces that I've been wanting to do, and that's going to be a difficult one because it's not that I don't know a lot of the material. It's just I need time to study and do the self studies and like sit down and actually schedule an exam. So it's a little overwhelming right now, but my goal is by the end of the year to push myself to get it done. So
thank you. Mary?
Yeah, so I think that my goal is like just kind of getting back into things. I took some time off this summer where I stopped scheduling myself for events and stuff like that, because I went really hard for a really long time and I just kind of got burnt out. So my goal is to get back into things like blogging, to get back into being more active in supporting some of the women's groups, like I support a women's shelter here in local Columbia, and I need to have another push to get them, you know, some more tech stuff. So my goal is to get back engaged, get back focused again after a break here. So.
Okay. And one of my goals is to learn how to become a developer for Business Central. It's something that I've been trying to get into, but haven't had any time to get into it. So hopefully over the next few months, I'll find some time to take some more courses and learn more about that. So I'm gonna throw it to the audience here. If you guys would be willing to share one of your goals, maybe we can, you know, touch base in a couple of weeks and see where you are with that as well.
Well, I'm in a boot camp, obviously, so my goal is to continue to progress through that and learn, and then ultimately find a job that excites and inspires me.
Okay.
I've had a huge elder care situation going on that started with COVID, and so trying to get that in a better space has been an ongoing goal. A lot of my career goals it's easier for me to work the career goals. I don't ever have a problem with that. It's all trying to interweave all the personal stuff that seems to be more where my challenges are.
Same here, Brenda. The only one.
Same. Literally same. Probably the biggest challenge. I'm actually going to try to start a blog and get that up and running, and start sharing some of the things that I know so other people can get started in the tech that I know. So that's my goal.
Awesome.
I'm also in a boot camp, so I guess my main goal is also getting through that. But my kind of goal within that is getting better at like presenting and public speaking, because I'm not the best at that, but I know that I'll have to make presentations in my future career. So that's one thing I'm really working on right now.
Awesome. Well, I wrote everybody's goal down, so I'm going to hold you all to it now. But we thank you so much for coming, and I love seeing new faces. We do this once a month. I did put a YouTube link in the chat a little bit earlier. I'll go ahead and plop it in there again. We have all of our previous month's videos out there for you to watch as well. If you want to binge watch one night, make that a goal. Just don't do it on a Friday or Saturday, because you should be doing something more fun than watching us. But we appreciate you guys joining, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're here to help you guys and help build your confidence where needed. Okay.
Absolutely. I just want to second that. Yeah, I mean, we're here for you. I love this like smaller group today, and kind of hearing at some different places that each of you guys are at. And I think that we just can't stress enough that this is why we put together this group, is we wanted to find people just like you, so that we could help you, that we could mentor you, that we could support you, that we could let you know that you're not alone, because it's just what we love to do. So don't not reach out to us. So that's all.
All right. And I see Shannon had to go, so we are at time. Thank you, ladies. Have a good rest of your week and a good weekend.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.